It's happening again, everybody. It is happening again. Mainstream media is out with some new allegations. This was reported, I believe, originally in the New York Times, but it may have been the Washington Post. Just so everybody understands, those were prime culprits for previous Russiagate stories. So my point is, don't turn off your critical thinking skills because it sounds like the paper of record has said something, yes. No. Let's be objective about this. Let's be reasonable about this. So one of those outlets reported that bombshell, Russia is paying the Taliban to kill American soldiers. And Rachel Maddow snapped right back into Russiagate mode. And she was out with a long monologue on this like she always does. Right back in her element. Let's see what she said.
If this Times report is correct, this means that U.S. intelligence has concluded that Vladimir Putin is offering bounties for the scalps of American soldiers in Afghanistan. Not only offering money to people who kill Americans, but some of the bounties that Putin has offered have been collected, meaning the Russians at least believe that their offering cash to kill Americans has actually worked to get some Americans killed. The Russians at least believe, if these bounties have been paid out, that the people to whom they have offered this money have successfully gone out and killed American soldiers because of it, and the Russians have therefore paid for that service. And President Trump was told about this in March, and he has done nothing about it. He was given, what did they describe it as? A menu of possible responses. And so far he has chosen off the menu that he'll have none of it. Thank you. He'll do nothing.
Do something, Don. What are you waiting for, Don? What are you waiting for? When are you going to do something? When are you going to stand up to them? When are you going to stand up to them? Well, what do you mean stand up? What does that imply? What does that entail? At the very least, we're talking about sanctioning them more. Maybe you go a little further. Maybe you do another buildup of NATO troops right on Russia's border. Maybe you scramble some fighter jets. Maybe you escalate militarily. What do you want? What do you want to do? What do you want to do, Maddow? Rachel, what's on your mind? You're prodding the president of the United States to somebody who's an unhinged maniac. You want him to be more aggressive. See, this is what we call resisting from the right. This is not resisting from the left. This is resisting from the right. Now, just so everybody understands, who's the source here? Anonymous intelligence officials. Anonymous intelligence officials. So, in other words, the same people who said Saddam worked with Al-Qaeda and Saddam has weapons of mass destruction, and the same people who pushed the original Russiagate story, which turned out delivering on bupkis. Remember when that happened? And I was proven right. There's only a handful of other people on the left that were proven right, that we weren't going to get Dickie McGee's axe over it. And then, by the way, there was never a moment of reckoning where people were like, you know what? That they were right. They were saying that they were, what do you think was going to happen? People literally thought Donald Trump was going to be taken out of the Oval Office in handcuffs for colluding with Vladimir Putin or something. And I was like, that's a pipe dream. You're crazy if you think that's going to happen. Of course that's not going to happen. Duh. I actually believe the idea that the Trump administration and Trump himself, they're too stupid and incompetent to launch some sort of grand plan where he's a Manchurian candidate for Vladimir Putin. Are you kidding me? And the conspiracies were one on top of the other. You had Jonathan Chait arguing that, maybe Trump was a puppet of Russia since 1984. Was it 84, 87? One of those numbers. Rachel Maddow doing segments talking about how Russia has the ability to turn off the power grid in the middle of the winter in the north of the United States of America. Oh my God, Russia's going to turn off our power and kill us. Oh my God. All of that was total and utter crap. Cold War 2.0 BS. So do I believe the anonymous intelligence officials? No, I don't. And by the way, they haven't presented any evidence. None. Zero. Now, let's dive into this claim a little more. They're saying the Taliban was getting paid by Russia to kill American soldiers. Let me ask you a question. Do you think the Taliban needed money to kill U.S. soldiers? We invaded Afghanistan 19 years ago. You know how long they've been fighting us? 19 years. They're a guerrilla army in Afghanistan and in Pakistan. And they don't like that we're there. So they've been fighting us. Did Russia need to step in to say, we'll pay you to kill the Americans? They were killing the Americans anyway. They were killing the American soldiers anyway because we were on their land. They didn't get paid by Russia. And you know what the crazy thing is? This is exactly what we did to Russia. See, people don't know the history of this, but you go back, Russia invaded Afghanistan. It was in the 1980s. And we funded and armed, at the time, the Mujahideen. And the Mujahideen, later it split up to Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, but the Mujahideen were Islamic fundamentalists led by Osama bin Laden. So we armed these jihadists to fight against Russia. Now, did we put bounties on individual Russian soldiers? No. But we did, broadly speaking, arm fundamentalist Muslims to fight against Russia. Why? Because it was a geopolitical move. We didn't want Russia to get any more territory, any more sway, control any more natural resources. We didn't want any threat to our standing as the world's sole superpower. So that's why we did it. And the logic was the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So in other words, we actually did one of the things, or something similar to what we're accusing Russia of doing. There's no evidence Russia did this. Do I think Russia did this? No, of course not. Of course I don't think they did it. And there's no evidence of it. So, I mean, I can't believe that we're right back into Russiagate nonsense. They were thoroughly embarrassed when all of their claims bared nothing. Nothing came of the whole Russiagate thing. Nothing came of it. If anything, it helped Trump. His poll numbers went up after the Mueller report found, hey, nothing's here. And then impeachment failed too. His numbers went up after that. And now we're right back into the same old horse crap. There's plenty of real stuff to go after Trump for. For Christ's sake, there's a freaking pandemic. 120,000 people are killed, and we're not even mandating masks. We have an economic depression, and you're talking about you want Trump to stand up to Russia because Russia allegedly paid to have our American soldiers killed through the Taliban. They paid the Taliban to do it. The Taliban was going to do it anyway. Nonsense. So why did intelligence agencies, what would be a motive for them to lie about this? Well, again, first and foremost, they've never left that Cold War mindset. And the more we have the outside, boogeyman to be afraid of, the more funding the CIA gets, the FBI gets, the deep state gets. They can maintain their dominance. They can maintain their power and their funding if you have a permanent outsider boogeyman. And they've never left that mindset of the Cold War. And that's them in their own words. That's not me putting words in their mouths. They still believe in this standoffish approach, this tense approach with Russia. So the timing of this is really curious. Why? Take a look at this. Trump administration finalizing plan to withdraw 4,000 troops from Afghanistan. So right at the time when they want to withdraw 4,000 troops, now the claim is Trump's a weakling because Russia was paying to get American soldiers killed, and what's he going to do about it? He's not going to do anything about it. So it's like an attempt to try to prod them to stay in Afghanistan. Now, by the way, just to be clear, we are staying in Afghanistan either way, because withdrawing 4,000 troops would still keep thousands of troops there. I don't know the total number. There would still be thousands of troops there. But isn't it curious that as soon as we were finalizing this stuff, a story leaks from the intelligence agencies that basically are trying to accuse Trump of being a wimp and not being hawkish enough? And then the other reason is Maddow Benjamin, she's one of the co-founders of Code Pink. She says the following: curious that allegations regarding Russia giving Taliban money to kill U.S. soldiers come just in time to sabotage talks regarding the last nuclear treaty between the U.S. and Russia, the withdrawal of more U.S. troops from Afghanistan, and peace in Syria. Sounds like fake news to me. So whenever we try to do détente, whenever we try to inch in the direction of peace, there's always some sort of bombshell or some sort of report that tries to prod the executive branch to go more in a hawkish direction. And liberals and Democrats are more than happy to do the propaganda of the intelligence agencies and believe them, no questions asked. Rachel Maddow did a whole special on how the intelligence agencies lie, and they lied us into the Iraq war. She did a whole special on it. And now, uncritically parroting those same intelligence agencies with a hyperbolic claim that Russia is paying the Taliban to kill Americans. And again, the implication is she's begging Trump to do something. What do you want him to do? At the very least, she wants more sanctions. But more likely, she wants some sort of military escalation. This is why I've always been an opponent of these kinds of crazy people. I mean, this is insane. This is hawkish. This is resisting from the right. I don't know what the hell has happened to our politics, but it is disturbing. And it really saddens me that, like, when I first was really getting into politics, there was a sense that the Democrats were actually anti-war. Because I remember with Bush and the war in Iraq, and for a couple of years there, the Democrats were like really loud and aggressive against the Iraq war and would attack it on a daily basis and say, we got to get out, we got to get out, we got to get out. It really sucks when you realize that that was nothing but political posturing, that very few people are actually principled in their stance against wars or offensive wars. It just happened to be the case that since Bush was pushing it, they could make a partisan point to get Bush on it. And then, you know, when they were in power, they kept the wars going. And now, this is probably even worse because now you're begging this crazy maniac president to be more aggressive, which is the exact opposite of what I would do. We're right back to Russiagate. It never ends.